Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 18th of December 1960. A slave with four masters. Your whole body is sankhara dharma, conditioned phenomena, such as hair, teeth, skin, etc. The Buddha also taught about it. It's true and it happens by conditioning. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body are conditioned by karma or the past karma. It's called kam sankhara and none of them is owned by us. Kam is the Burmese word for Pali word karma. It will fall apart if karma has done away with it. So, the body is owned by karma. The face becomes clear and joyful with the wholesome mind. The hot material form, rupa, and angry mind arise with the rough weather. Mind and form are changing by weather. The body becomes fat with the good foods. It's conditioned by the nutrient, ahara. It's conditioning by the four sankhara dharmas of karma, mind, chitta, weather, utu, and nutrient, ahara. The five khandhas arise with the conditioning of them. Therefore, the five khandhas are conditioned khandhas. These four phenomena are making the body to develop and decline. So, nothing in the khandhas belongs to us. They are collected together by conditioning. So, it's sankhara dharma. You can also call it as the five khandhas. The khandha body is like a house supported with four posts. It will collapse if one of them broke down because it depends on others. It's not our own and not related to us that it's Anatta Dharma. It's true or not, let's think about it. All the others will fall apart if karma has done away with it. What about not eat foods, nutrient, and burnt down with temperature, utu? The khandha exists momentarily because it's conditioning by them. All the conditioned phenomena, sankhara, are in a moment. It's momentary arising and momentary passing away, momentary arising and momentary passing away, etc. Arising and passing away is not relating to you. Therefore, sankhara dharma is unstable. If becoming stable, no one will be sent away as a corpse. And no one needs for medication, eat, change clothes, or fan the body. Nor do they need to do any conditioning for it. You'll become a corpse if one of them asks you. So, which one of them you can rely on it? You have to accept it with their arrangements. You are hired to look after this body. In this situation you're still boasting as, what do you think I am? The hired slave boasts with it as his own body. With the arising of crazy ditthi, you're boasting as me. Without knowing it as a khandha, it is moha lunatic. All these crazinesses do not go away if not knowing the body as sankhara, i.e., dithumataka and mohumataka. These come to people who have a lot of worry, especially to older people. None of them is in your ability and power. It relates to the four sankhara dharmas. Talking with sankhara dharma, knowledge of anatta arises as nothing is owned by us. Tanha, mana and ditthi increase by not knowing it as sankhara dharma. Taking the five khandhas as me, I am, mine a wrong view, conceit, craving. Fall into affection with tanha, proud with mana and think with wrong view as me, I-ness. Therefore, there are more tanha lunatic, mana lunatic and ditthi lunatic. You will not know it as anatta if you don't know sankhara. Atta will come in if not knowing of anatta. Papanka dharma, proliferation increases if don't know sankhara. With knowing of it, papanka ceases and will end samsara. The cause of not knowing sankhara makes beings become over craziness. Sayadaw continued about the wanderer Subhadda who was the last disciple of the Buddha. Subhadda asked 3 questions. These were: 1. Are there any tracks in the sky by one who moves there? 2. Are there any noble persons outside the Buddha's teachings? 3. Is there any conditioned phenomena that is permanent? These 3 questions and answers were in the Dhammapada story. For teaching Wanderer Subhadda, the Buddha prolonged his lifespan and waited for him. At near death, one would see Nibbāna by contemplating its impermanence and its ending when Vedana arose, and couldn't die. It could stop death, and could wait for it for a while, here referred to the situation of the Buddha. Don't think that your practice is a small one. Therefore, practice it for the success, and during the fruition state, phala samapatti, it can't die. It cannot transcend death and only can stop it for a period. No need to be in low spirit. Sayadaw encouraged the disciples. That's impossible if you yourself are lazy and dull. Your dullness can be corrected, but not for your laziness. There are 16 lazy excuses or places for the fools. E.g., it's too cold, it's too hot, etc. The lazy people give 16 reasons for their excuses for doing things. The Buddha also knew about these things or matters. You must have sympathy to yourself. Also concern for your teacher, i.e., Sayadaw, and don't enter into these places for your refuge. There are a lot of sa garing chongs there and you also have a lot of them. Sa garing city or area is a well-known spiritual area with hilly ranges. Historically a famous area for spiritual seekers. Therefore, a lot of monasteries and secluded places for yogis. Here the Burmese word chong means secluded place. Combinations with other words can have different meanings, such as chong ko means stay away from one's duty and lazy. So here Sayadaw referred to his disciples for their laziness for practice. Nibbāna is close to the khandha. Khandhas are sankhara dharmas and you have to observe their unstable nature. In this way there will be never shortage of Ariyas, noble beings, from Sotapanna to Arahant. Some Burmese monks and Thai forest monks were very good evidence. In the 20th century of Burmese and Thai Buddhism, we found Ariya monks in these 2 countries, from Sotapannas to Arahants. Some of them were Tevijja Arahants, e.g., Soon Lun Sayadaw, and some had supernormal power. According to the commentary which I heard, as in these periods we could not have Tevijja Arahants. We should not take it as face value, but only as a general view. Closing square bracket. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 20th of December 1960. The blind with distortions. The 5 sense objects are like 5 spears and the 5 khandhas are like the speared things. The khandhas are speared by sense objects in turn like a dart, sala. It has the trembled nature of sorrow, lamentation, etc. After speared by darts and get disease, roga of dukkha, domanassa, etc. Pain and grief. Therefore, the Buddha taught about it as sala, roga, etc. The feeling, vedana, of happiness and sadness are arising in turn in the khandha. So, wanting to get the khandha is wanting to be speared by darts, and wanting to be suffered with many kinds of feeling. People who had prayed for the khandhas were fools, i.e., the majority of later Buddhists. For an example, when speared by the dart of mosquito bite, the body was trembled and itching dukkha vedana arose. We can give other examples for the other sense bases and objects, ayatanas. Is there anything to be desired or affectionate thing in the khandha? There is no happiness for whatever kind of khandhas, i.e., human khandha, Devata Kanda and Brahma God Kanda. It's a trembled Kanda, disease Kanda, and we always have to be worried about it. We're looking at it with the Tanna eyes, but with the Ñāṇa eyes, knowledge, it's never free from diseases. I.e., Sankhara dukkha. If we contemplate these dukkhas, very often become wearisome and dispassion to the body. Therefore, the Buddha told Nakulapita that except the fools all the wise never said of the body was free from diseases. SN 22.1 Nakulapichasatam. Is there any pleasant about it? People thought the body was free from disease and prayed for the Kanda as happiness, Sukha. With the wrong perception comes wrong wishes and 3 distortions arise. These are distortions of perception, knowing and viewing, Sana, Chitta and Ditthi. Not knowing of having the Kanda will spear by darts that all these things arise. Now we find out the culprit of the Kanda, i.e., inversions or distortions, Vipallasa Dhamma. Therefore, it will not get the Kanda if we can abandon these 3 distortions. With the 3 corrections come and the 3 distortions must disappear. You must take it as only mind and body exist, not a man, not a woman, not a person and not a being. These are just perishing dharmas. Take off the distortion of man and woman, only mind and body exist. Contemplate them as after arising and vanishing. Do you still take it as stable and permanent? Abandon distortion of perception with, there is no such thing as man, woman, etc. Discard the distortion of knowing with, there is the existence of body and mind only. Desert the distortion of viewing as stable and permanent with the right view, not stable and not permanent, Anicca. Asking you to contemplate the impermanence of mind and body is to abandon the 3 distortions. This will become noble eyes. Before you had the blind eyes of a worldling or Ditthi Tanna eyes. Painful Kandas, Apaya Kandas, will never arise by abandoning of Ditthi Kamas, actions with wrong views. All kinds of Kanda will arise, all kinds of living being. If you can't abandon the 3 distortions, Sana, Chitta and Ditthi, and then you must spear with all kinds of dart and must get all kinds of disease. Note, the above talk was about the 3 distortions of perceiving, knowing and viewing things wrongly as permanent, happiness, self and beautiful. So, it becomes 12 inversions, Vipallasa. Human beings develop these distortions or inversions for their whole life. Therefore, the Buddha referred him as Andhapadajana, blind worldlings. Contemplation on blind worldling is very important for today humans. By observing on today world situations from society level to international level, we can see the dangers and misfortunes which are the outcomes of ignorance or delusion with greed and anger, hatred. On the international level, there are more bad leaders and governments than before. These people are like the blind man leading the blinds. Therefore, there are a lot of human problems going on around the world. As an analogy, it was like the ants which were blind and relied on the smell to find their ways. So, they followed each other behind, and if the leader was not good, they would encounter dangers and difficulties. Closing square bracket. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 21st of December 1960. On Sensuality. The 5 Kandas is like a riddle tree, in Pali, Himsuka tree. A dog came under a riddle tree and saw the red flowers on the ground. It took the fallen red flowers as pieces of red meat and ate them. It didn't satisfy his desire. The 5 sensual pleasures are also in the same way. Excrement, urine, snot, spittle, mucus, etc. come out from the body, but we think the things inside are good. Human stupidity regarding their bodies is no limit. They carry around these dirty things and smelly toilets with them all the time, even in sleep. Men not only have affection to their toilets, but also for the toilets of the opposite sex. They lure each other by beautifying themselves with clothes, ornaments, perfume, cosmetics, etc. with the toilets inside them. Closing square bracket. After eating the fallen kimsuka flowers on the ground with it, knew that these were not meat. It took the red flowers on the tree might be meat, and with expectation waiting under the tree for the flowers to fall off. Beings are dying without fulfilling their desire on sensual pleasures, kamagunas. Was the dog oppressed by the kimsuka tree, or the foolishness and wrong thinking of the dog under the tree? You all are living like dog and dying like dog if behaving this way. You don't have the mind of a human. You have to cry if the kimsuka tree disappears. Kimsuka tree referred to the khandhas, because you're worrying for the dog mind and it will become the human mind. I.e., you don't want to be a human. Sayadaw was right. We can see the present-day dog culture around the world. Today's talk demonstrates the great fault of sensual pleasures. You separate the khandha into groups, i.e., all humans khandhas. You get 32 groups of them. Which group of your wife and son you love it, or like it? The dog mind is reducing to a little, before you're always expecting for it. None of the groups is pleasant and attractive, that none of them is valuable. The body has 32 groups or parts, and mind phenomena have 4 groups. Mind and body are impermanent, and only at here you understand it as don't have the affectionate and lovable nature with insight, vipassana. Separate it into 32 parts and tanha dies. Discern it as mind and body, ditthi dies. Contemplating it as all conditions are impermanent and dukkha, all phenomena are not self and will have no affliction with it. Only that you want to run away from it like the dog under the tree. In the story, at last, the dog also had disaffection with the red kimsuka flowers and left the tree. Contemplate one's khandha as impermanence, and also your wife's and son's khandhas as impermanent. Not doing this work is a great mistake. You'll be free from the life of a dog if the contemplation is clear with the discernment of internal and external phenomena. Also, you'll not die like a dog. You have the wise view on them as all of them are unreliable and throw them away. This is the attainment of the path knowledge. Impermanence becomes dukkha and right view becomes magga sakka. Free from tanha is liberation from dying like a dog. This is Nibbāna. In the time of the Buddha, dog ascetics were not unknown to humans today. For the dog culture of humans today is very close to theirs, for the reason that humans have a strong attachment to their pets. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 24th of December 1960. Is it your view or the Buddha's view? The view of the Buddha is the removal of desire and lust, chanda raga. To remove or destroy the clinging tanha on the 5 khandhas and properties. Desire and lust refer to tanha, craving. There are practices for the removal of them. Only you take the view of the Buddha, you will be a Buddhist. Only with the prayers and worship is still not a Buddhist yet. In giving talk, the Buddha usually taught about the removal of the attachment to the khandha, family members, e.g., wife, son, etc. and properties. Later some Buddhists postulated new ideas and view into the teaching. The followers became confused and lost the fundamentals. It was not the Buddha's view if we have an affliction and worry to these things and matters. These are the views of falling into apayas, painful existences. You have to admonish yourself whenever attachment to the properties and wife and son arise. Admonish, as this is not the view of the Buddha. At the time of attachment, you have to remember it instantly. It'll be your own view if not the view of the Buddha. With your own view it will go towards apayas, woeful existences. This talk was based on Devadaha Sutta of Kandavaga Samyutta, SN 22.2 Devadahasuttam. The Buddha himself wanted the monks to interpret his teaching rightly. So, he sent him to see Ven Sariputta, who taught them what the Buddha Dhammas are, which are now spreading in Southeast Asia and are widely studied. From the history of Buddhism, we know about its disappearance in India and spread into Sri Lanka, Burma and Thailand, where it maintained its original form and teachings. It is lucky for us that we still have the chance to study and practice what the Buddha has originally taught. The ways and the fruits of the practice are still available to us from the Pali Nikayas and teachers, both scholar and practice monks, such teachers as Real Saviour, Mogok Sayadaw, etc. Nowadays we can see in some traditions with their new ideas and views have difficulties in their ways and practices. Even through the original teachings of Pali Nikaya, it is difficult to understand clearly and practice effectively without a good, experienced teacher. Sayadawji's talks were also supported the importance of maintaining and preserving its original teaching of the Buddha. Closing square bracket. Some people are still dissatisfied with the answer of the Buddha's view as that much, i.e., removal of desire and lust. So, they will ask more on it. In regard to what did the Buddha teach the removal of desire and lust? This is in regard to the removal of Chanda Raga on the 5 khandhas. You have to answer clearly as to remove the desire and lust in any one of the khandhas. The 5 khandhas are dukkha sakha, so they are not meant to be clung upon and are to be separated from it. They will again ask you what the benefit of removal of them is. The result of not removal of Chanda Raga on the khandhas is, the khandha will change and perish. When it is changed and perished, there arise in one sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. Man and woman become husband and wife, so what are they doing for it about? For making wealth and money. One man in the audience answered, "No. You're looking for crying." Sayadaw's answer: "You all talk about it as a marriage and become confused. You can't live without any for crying. You have to cry if looking for crying. You'll become unhappy if looking for unhappiness." Sayadaw gave some examples for family life. Please tell about the results of no desire, i.e., removal of Chanda Raga. You have to answer in this way. One is devoid of desire, lust and clinging, then sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair do not arise in one. This is to exhort you not to attach yourself to them if you don't want to cry, the point of which is to get relief from the dukkha. In the sutta, Ven Sariputta only mentioned this much, i.e., not included on practice. You'll have passion, desire and lust if not practicing vipassana. Therefore, with vipassana practice you don't have desire regard to them. Only with the discernment of Anicca, dukkha, Anatta and asubha of its nature, there will be no desire and affliction. This point is important because I had met a yogi who practiced a long retreat and discerned these natures, but not to the ending of them. He was a businessman, so he had to maintain his practice in business life. Therefore, he had to activate Anicca whenever had the chance to develop it. It did not affect his business and practice. A few years later, he achieved his goal. They'll ask again, with affection and desire, what phenomena will dwell in the mind. Unwholesome Dhamma, akasala, will dwell in the mind with affection and desire, and without it akasala Dhamma cease. Therefore, you must practice vipassana. You have to give the answers for the Buddha's view up to this point. After many years of listening to Sayadawji's talks with contemplation in daily life from current situations in societies around the world, i.e., to the international level among countries, I understand that the Buddha's message is so important to all human beings. Here, by the message of the Buddha, I mean the teaching on the Dhamma Vinaya in the Pali Nikayas. The Buddha admonished very strong to some monks who misinterpreted his teachings regard with Dhamma and Vinaya, as to Bhikkhu Sati in Mahatanasahaya Sutta, Minnesota 38, and Bhikkhu Anatta in Alagadapama Sutta, Minnesota 22, both in Majjhima Nikaya. In the Anguttara Nikaya, we can see some suttas on the preserving the Dhamma, which is good for contemplation. The list of them are I. 130 to 169, 220, 241, 4 to 160, 4 to 180, 5 to 79-80, 5 to 154-156, 5 to 201, 640, 759, from Bhikkhu Bodhi's translations. The explanation regard to the numbers. As example I. 130 to 169. I is the Book of the Ones. 130 to 169 are the sutta numbers. Before the Buddha passed away, he did not appoint a personal figure to replace him. Here we can see the wisdom of the Buddha, not like any other religious figures, because man could not be reliable like the Dharma. Even we can see the problem in later Buddhist tradition and other faiths. Some of them were fighting each other for power and wealth. Therefore, the Buddha appointed the Dhamma Vinaya as the teacher for all followers on his behalf. Even then, some later Buddhists using the quotation, taking the Sila as your teacher, without Dharma. This was like a person who only has one leg, instead of two legs, or only has one arm, instead of two arms. In Pali, Dharma is represented the teaching of the Buddha, and Adharma is the teaching which did not come from the Buddha. Closing square bracket. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 5th of October 1960. The Danger of Craving. There is little gratification in sensual pleasure, kamaguna, but more dukkha. Here the Buddha taught about the way to the extermination of craving. It'll never give us satisfaction, instead giving us sufferings most of the time. We are used to doing things which never give us satisfaction and will suffer accordingly to the actions, kama. Sayadaw referred it to the 12 links of Da chart. The 4 painful existences of the khandha will appear for us, because these are the actions done with the unwholesome mind, akasala chittas. Is there any action to the good destination, sugati, and Nibbāna? It happens because with dissatisfaction we make the effort with clinging. This is the power of craving. Tanha is very bad indeed. You have to die only with the burning of tanha fire if you can't throw it away. I.e., referred to the holding of the blazing grass torch. Because tanha is grasping at it. You are more foolish than that. You can't let go, even when it's burning. This is a kind of stupidity by burning oneself. Grasping to something which burns oneself is a kind of craziness. A burnt corpse by fire will go to apaya, woeful destination. Why? Because it was a miserable death. First, don't go and hold at it. If you have already held at it, just throw it away. You all had held on it with family members, wife and children, but you still can be free if you let it go. Throw them away with knowledge, Ñāṇa. You didn't see your first foolishness, i.e., went and held at it. You don't see your second foolishness, i.e., burn with kilesa fire and fall into painful existences, apaya. With knowledge, Ñāṇa, contemplate all of them as non-self. It's contemplating of insight, vipassana, by knowing as not good to hold on it. Contemplate with insight to external phenomena and also to one's body. Samadaya ceases, i.e., tanha, by not holding with tanha, upadana and kama, and the following dukkha also ceases. I.e., birth, jati. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 30th of December 1960. Is everything that happens anatta? Who makes the 5 khandhas to arise? Matter or form, rupa, arises by kama, mind, chitta, temperature, uttu, and nutrient, ahara, which are the 4 causes. The 4 mind dharmas, feelings, perceptions, mental formations and consciousness, arise by sense objects and sense doors, aram and vara. The 4 causes are always conditioned matters. It was like the example of a house supported by 4 posts. Is it according to your own nature or according to their arrangement? It will be collapsed and perished by one of the causes. Do they belong to you or are they controlled by the 4 causes? You have received the non-self, anatta, khandhas. You get something which is not your own. You'll be alive if they order you to be alive. If they want you to die and you have to die. The body has to follow accordingly if the mind asks the body to lift the leg and the hand. Even walking for 1 step does not belong to you. The mind is controlling the body. Only the mind wanting to breathe in and out arises. The body can breathe in and out. It'll die if the mind did not arises. The Buddha and Arahants had already seen these natures that they could not take joy in it. We are oppressed and tortured accordingly by them. You can say it as anatta and also as dukkha sakha. You have to accept if it asks you to live on or have to be in pain or have to die. Don't take it as you're unlucky. You take it as only kama, past action, and become wrong view. In Ledi Sayadaw's Anatta Dipani, painful feelings or illness and diseases are mostly related to the mind, temperature and nutrient. Blaming everything only on kama becomes kamavadi ditthi, i.e., everything happens because of kama. It's a wrong view on kama. After arriving to any life of existence by its arrangement will treat you as slave. It is only in Nibbāna, which is, without these 4 causes. Kama is the arrangement of it if someone takes painful existence. Temperature, uttu, causes the earth to be in fire, at the time of doomsday. Food causes someone dies with food poisoning. Nibbāna is free from these things. Only arriving to Nibbāna will free from anatta, i.e., free from the 3 universal characteristics of Anicca, dukkha and anatta. It has been said by some people that whatever happens is anatta, i.e., there is nothing you can do. This is the voice of a slave. It means whatever happens I'll accept it. You have to change this kind of non-self, anatta. If not, you'll never overcome it. The 4 bases of power, desire, chanda, persistence, viriya, intentness, chitta and discrimination, vimamsa are important here. Therefore, we have to come out from their province, i.e., the four causes. If not, we have to age, to pain and to die, and then have to be born. There is no happiness in them. This kind of happiness is the happiness of a slave. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 8th of January 1961. Human Perils. Sayadaw also gave nighttime Dhamma talks to disciples who stayed at the center. Most of them were 30 minutes only. Here is one of these talks. It was about the importance of taking refuge, not for Buddhists only but also for all human beings. This talk was based on a story in Dhammapada, Buddhavagga, DHP 188 to 192, the story of Aggidatta hermit who had 10,000 followers and taught them paying homage to forests, mountains, sacred trees, etc. They had the potentials for enlightenment that the Buddha went to teach them Dhamma and all became arahants. The Buddha's discourse to them was, when threatened with danger men went to many as a refuge, but these kinds of refuge was not a safe refuge and also not the best ones. One cannot be freed from all the evil consequences of existence, dukkha, by coming to such a refuge. One took refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Arya Sangha and penetrated the Four Noble Truths which led to the cessation of dukkha. This indeed was the safe and best refuge. There are other many types of refuge by man. Majority of people are craving and clinging for them which create human problems internally and externally. These kinds of wrong refuge are sensual pleasures, money, wealth, power, fame, etc. These kinds of wrong refuge can lead mankind to destruction. Today a lot of human and environmental problems in societies to the international level are testified to the point. Closing square bracket. You're reciting, Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami and Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I.e., reciting the formula of taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangham, but it's unstable yet. Why is that? This kind of refuge is not knowing or penetrating the truth, Sakha, yet. Only after you have penetrated the truth and your refuge becomes stable. You must not think that with an unstable refuge you are safe from falling back into the painful or woeful existences, apayas. This refuge, which will never perish wherever, whenever and under whatever circumstances you may be, can only be possible if you know the noble truth. Having a stable refuge and not falling into the painful existence are of the same essence. They have a cause and effect relationship. Of all the perils, the worst is the peril of association with wrong people, manusatova. Note, some Burmese Buddhists do Pali chanting for prayer. They make wishes of free from some perils, bhaya. As example, free from amanusatova, wild or fierce spirits, etc. Here the human peril which Sayadaw referred to is association with people who have wrong views and teaching which can harm one. In the Anguttara Nikaya, we can find some teachings on perils by the Buddha. All these are interesting and useful for reflections. Perils, bhaya, due to fools, Sutta 1, Book of the Three, An. 3.1 Bayasuttam, Future Perils, An. 5.77 Pathama Anagattabhayasuttam An.5.80 Katuta Anagattabhayasuttam, Perils of Reproaches, Punishment. Bad Destinations, and .4.121 Attanavadasuttam, in Misconduct, and .4.122 Umibhayasuttam, and .5.174 Varasuttam, and .9.27 Pathamavara Suttam, and 0.10.92 Bayasutam, in sensual pleasures, and 0.6.23 Bayasutam, and 0.8.56 Bayasutam, separating mother and son. Sutta 62, Book 3. All these suttas related to the Anguttara Nikaya translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi. Closing square bracket. Here human peril means becoming of Christians or Muslims with their talks. Leaning towards wrong views is more painful than beating by someone. It'll be cured if someone beating up you and after hospitalization. It can send you to painful existences, apayas. Is it not more fearful by encountering this human peril? It is very interesting and penetrating by using the Buddha Dhamma to contemplate the many kinds of perils made by human beings. Humans have the potential of changing or transcending of everything if we use our knowledge and power rightly and wisely. The earth can be heaven or hell. It depends on that we are wise or stupid. Without our own knowledge, Ñāṇa, we take their saying as it could be right. There are many faiths in the world because of the encounter with human perils, views, teachings, doctrines, beliefs, etc. They taught to people whatever they thought as it might be true and converting people. Most of them were speculations or misinterpretations of the experience. It was not true, i.e., not direct experience. You'll encounter the perils of falling into painful existences, apaya, if you believe in them. You'll encounter apaya perils if you encounter human perils, wrong views and blind faiths. Here Sayadaw told the story of Aggidatta hermit who was misleading people by his wrong view, belief and teaching. He made a rule for his followers. If any of them are defiled with lobha, dosa or moha, greed, anger or delusion, they have to punish themselves by carrying a bucket of sand to fill a designated area. Later this place became a sand mount and occupied by a powerful serpent, magical naga. It described worldlings has a lot of defilement. It is true that worldlings can even give up their lives for tanha and indulge in momentary transient pleasures. See today 21st century modern world. If you discern impermanence is arriving at the truth, sakha. After the penetration of dukkha sakha and it becomes the noble true refuge which is stable and unshakable. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 10th of January 1961. Anicca Ñāṇa, the Saviour. Before the Buddha, until now, and even into the future, humanity has always looked externally for their creator and savior. Human beings will never find them, because it never exists outside them. Only the Buddha knew who were the real creator and the savior. It was like a king looking for the sound of a lute inside a lute by breaking it down into pieces, and then reduced them into splinters, and then burnt them with fire and reduced them into ashes. And then he winnowed the ashes in the strong wind and let them be carried away by the current of the river, but he never found the music in the lute. From Salayatana Samyutta, the simile of the lute. It was also like the following analogy. A philosopher, it seems an unwise person, postulated an idea or view such as, in nature, there could be some strange animals, as examples tortoise with hairs and rabbit with horns in the wild. He taught it to his students, and they believed in him because they thought he was wise. In their whole life, they were always looking for it, only their lifespan came to an end and never found it because it was non-existence. This kind of searching will never come to an end, not only this life, but also many future lives to come. Closing square bracket. It was like the rust corroded the iron. In the same way the things which had been searched would destroy us. by using and consuming the things which have been searched become craving, clinging and action, tanha, upadana and kama. We are suffered with our own properties. Why is that? Because we don't know how to consume them. It will not become fault to us if we consume it for the practice. We don't have right or proper attentions in using them. We don't contemplate Anicca to the things and the mind during consuming. Therefore, the things we have searched is sending us to the four apaya like the rust corrodes the iron. By contemplating on the things and the mind as impermanence will fulfill our desire and at the same time lead to freedom. Sayadaw continued to teach disciples on the reflection of the four requisites: foods, clothes, dwellings and medicines. If we don't know the DA teaching, we take it as normal in all of our daily activities. In reality, we're living with the three unwholesome dharmas of lobha, dosa and moha, nearly all the time. Therefore, the Buddha said that the frequent homes of living beings were the four apaya, which mentioned it very often in his many talks. The Buddha gave this talk to the monks and it related to the monk, Tissa. Sayadaw told the story in gist. The monk Tissa received a new robe, and he planned to wear it the next day. But that very night unfortunately he passed away. See Dhammapada verse and story, Impurities, Malavagga, DHP 240. At near death, the monk Tissa didn't contemplate Anicca to his new robes. Because of his attachment on the new robes and reborn as a louse in it. The louse was called as animal, Tarakana, because it was far away from the path, fruit and Nibbāna. After a man dies, made merit for him and share it with him. But if he was reborn as hell being, animal, human and heavenly being, he could not receive the merit. These beings have their own kinds of food or nutrient. Only the hungry ghosts, Pitas, who are living near it houses, i.e., attachment to their homes, and in the villages. They are eating and drinking excrement, urine, snots, etc. Near houses and villages. Only these beings receive the shared merits. Therefore, you all have to try hard in the practice. With one mistake you're finished. At near death, contemplate the impermanence of feeling, mind, etc. If you can't contemplate Anicca, then reflect it as loathsome, asubha, and dukkha sakha. You'll attach to anything if you don't reflect in these ways. Now, you still have the time and do practice for its readiness or preparation. At near death you can't make it. In this talk, what you have to remember is the properties you have worked for are tormenting at you. At near death, except Anicca Ñāṇa, knowledge of impermanence, there is nothing you can rely on it. Therefore, do the practice to discern impermanence for its readiness or preparation.